What is going on, everybody? Change of pace, or actually just a change of atmosphere, if you will. What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? The Linc'd In Podcast is brought to you by, well, myself this time, Lindy Endzone for the touchdown, taking the lead for Sideline Sports and the Philadelphia Eagles, one video stream or podcast at a time. And I guess I am the host with the most this time. Well, no, that's actually Philly Jim's name, who is the co-host this time to my right. And
What the most?
yeah, we have been a little bit behind, and well, sometimes when one of us is kind of under the weather, it's not really the greatest idea to do the podcast without one of ourselves. So we thought that we'd kind of give you a double coverage this time and go over the last two episodes of dominance that the Eagles put on display, one on prime time, both of them at the link, disposing of two teams that really, well, were in two totally different fashions. But first and foremost, before we get started, let me bring in Philly Jim here, who's already next to me. But yeah, he was under the weather last week. We had to take a break for a little bit, but I seen your trip was all well despite missing your flight, man. But how did everything go since our last episode that we were on the air?
Well, it's a funny story. I mean, I did a live stream at the airport because I missed my flight and I couldn't get a flight until Thanksgiving Day. So I spent the night in Philly airport. I spent like $60 on overrated airport food. So yeah, it kind of sucked, but I mean, I got to see my family and it was fun. So I'll be going back down there for Christmas. So we'll review the tape and we'll learn from the tendencies that the team showed, and we'll be ready for the second game. I can tell you.
Yeah, man, no doubt. But yeah, good to see the regulars coming back in here. Bacon, what's up, man?
Grizzler.
AK's in the house, dude. Old familiar face of mine. What's up, buddy? Good to see you're still rocking and rolling. And yeah, man, with my new career change, it kind of sucks. My channel had to go on the back burner, but I can't say I am a lot happier with where I am right now. But that did not mean I had to sacrifice the podcast. I personally did not want to do that. And without further ado, let's get started, my partner. Well, I'm actually the partner originally, but shoes on the other foot this time. So, well, because we did not have an episode last week, we wanted to go back over how the Eagles ran over they ran over the Green Bay Packers in our previous matchup before the Titans. It was a high scoring game. The Eagles were back to how we have noted them and how we have watched them over the first few weeks or almost half of the season, with us being dominant in the first half. And this time we didn't necessarily fizzle out, although Aaron Rodgers only played up until the end of the third quarter after having some rib issues. Jordan Love came in, and well, that was that story. So if you go by it by the numbers, the Eagles against a injured Aaron Rodgers, if you will, because the excuses are always going to come up, but we got to call a spade a spade. The Eagles defense only gave up 23 points to a still decently potent Green Bay Packers squad that we have known going into that game. We were going to struggle with our run defense because we were facing not one good player, but two between Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. But we still got the job done and then some with the way that the Eagles dominated.
Yeah, I mean, the team rushed for 363 yards, so that's not something that you see very often. Jalen Hurts, 157 yards rushing, broke Michael Vick's record for the most rushing yards by an Eagles quarterback. So Jalen Hurts is he's playing very, very well right now. He's playing like a guy that you might say he should be the leading MVP. After some of the performances, another great performance against Tennessee. So I just think that the offense is humming right now, even though you have some guys out like Goddard, who obviously was a big losing him was a big miss. But,
yeah,
still getting the ball to the playmakers, being very efficient. not turning the ball over. And the offense is really getting it done right now. So it's really impressive.
Yeah, I think yeah. Aside from all the positives, I think we did have that. I think we did have that one moment in that game where AJ Brown tried to bulldoze three different Packer defenders and ended up losing the football, which could have been very costly. Which that ended up being the Eagles' only turnover all game, because if you look across the board statistically, I mean, the Eagles dominated Green Bay in time of possession by over 11 minutes. They were the least penalized team in that game by -1. They only had 3 penalties, so they were pretty clean for the most part, although it amassed 25 yards. Like you mentioned, 363 rushing yards, and I think that I think that puts such a I think it paints such a deadly picture, because this Eagles team, they can hurt you both ways, as we were given 2 examples in back-to-back weeks where if we don't need to throw it, we can we can run your teeth in. If the game does not call for running the football much, Hurts can beat you with his arm, and that has been one of the biggest criticisms all year. We heard it in the offseason, we heard it last year, and it just kept going on and on and on. Oh, he's a running quarterback, he's this, he's that. Well, I mean, what more does Jalen Hurts have to do to show you he's a true dual threat quarterback? But we're going to get to the we're going to definitely get to the Titans game, but we have to we'll clean up the Packers game here. We'll just keep going. Another way the Eagles were dominant, 8 of 15 on third down. That's how you want to operate an offense when you know the defense can't stop you. The Eagles 7.4 yards a carry, which is absolutely absurd. Hurts only needed to throw the ball 28 times, completed 16 of those. Yards per pass wasn't really all that up there. I mean, 4.6, not the greatest day in terms of passing, but like I said, this was a game where you didn't need to throw the ball all that much, because when you're Jalen Hurts going for 157 rush yards, aside from Miles Sanders having a career game, you didn't have to worry about throwing the football if you know the defense can't stop you on the ground. So I mean, it was just an unbelievable display of running the football, and not a single team in the NFL this year was able to come close to how the Eagles dismantled the Packers in that game running it.
Yeah, it was an unbelievable performance by the offensive line, by Jalen Hurts, Miles Sanders. Just being able to show that you can beat the team in multiple ways. You can either run the ball down the throat, or against the Titans, Jalen was throwing the ball all over the field, 380 yards passing. So it's like you said, they can. It's not just one thing that they can do. If you take away the run, then going to be able to open it up in the air. But if you try to make us play our game, which is running the ball, using our offensive line, then there's not a lot of teams that can run the football like this team. So very, very impressive.
There isn't a lot of teams, in fact, any teams in the NFL, and this isn't to discredit coaching staff, so I'm not going in that direction, but I'm saying it in regards to, I don't think there's another team that has a Jeff Stoutland on their coaching staff, not just in terms of how damn good he is as an offensive line coach, but when you're able to put it together as a run game coordinator to help this offense out, and to devise a game plan the way that he does, to use his guys in the trenches to their strengths, their athletic strengths, the combination is just unbelievable in itself. And I just think to this day, thank you that Jeff did not go to Alabama, that he stayed on the Eagles coaching staff, because I don't know where we would be without Coach Stoutland, because he's just, aside from the head coach, he's just that valuable to this football team, which will allow us to segue into the next topic. And you brought this up in the beginning when talking about the Packers game and the records. The records that Jalen Hurts broke against the Packers. And if we go about it by the numbers, like you said, Jalen Hurts now owns the Eagles' record for the most rushing yards by a quarterback in a single game, passing Michael Vick back when he ran for 130 against the New York Giants, which is our next opponent, at the Miracle in the Middlelands 2 game back in 2010. Hurts, let me see here. Got another one. Hurts also became just the 4th player in the Super Bowl era to pass and rush for 150 yards in the same game, joining Lamar Jackson, Colin Kaepernick, and Michael Vick. So I mean, and it just goes on and on. Jalen Hurts is also the first player since at least 1950 with 150 plus rush yards, 150 plus pass yards, and multiple passing touchdowns in the same game. I mean, him setting or breaking record after record, whether large or small, they're continuing to stack up against the haters' cases in trying to say that we just have a running back playing quarterback, because for the longest time now, even before Jalen Hurts was a Philadelphia Eagle, who was the last person that people were talking about like this in the NFL? Lamar Jackson. So I mean, I don't understand it to this point.
I think Jalen's a better passer than Lamar Jackson. I'm being straight up with you. I mean,
wow.
The way that I've seen how Jalen goes through the pocket and reads the field, I think he's better at doing that than Lamar. And I think that Lamar is a little bit more, I would say he's more erratic, because Lamar will force things and it'll lead to more interceptions. So I actually think Jalen is more careful with the ball. And I think he's just better at going through progressions and all that type of stuff. So I do think Jalen's a better passer than Lamar.
BLSG, good to see you, buddy. No, I don't blame you. I don't blame you for saying that either, and I also don't blame others for trying to claim that as a hot take, because we all seen.
I don't think it's that hot.
I think 2 seasonal examples in which Lamar Jackson looked like an MVP and he ended up winning an MVP, whether it was with his legs or with his arm. And Jalen Hurts is on track to accomplish almost the same feat. However, if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes playing the way he is right now, Hurts might end up running away with it. But then again, I don't think Hurts has a terrible loss on his resume this year. I don't know if he can.
The Commanders game was not his fault.
So, right? Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's in fairness, that's going to go. It's going to go against him just because. But either way, I mean, we'll see. But that'll also bring us into number 3 in talking about the Eagles' dominance by the numbers as a team, not just from a single player. So the Eagles, since 1948, the Eagles rushed for the most rushing yards in a single game since 1948. Sanders had 143 that game. Kenny Gainwell with 39. Boston Scott with 24. And then, of course, Jalen Hurts with 157. You don't see this kind of number very often at all, which is absolutely ridiculous. And then going further into it, Miles Sanders became the first Eagle since Shady McCoy to have 140 plus rushing yards and 2 touchdowns in a single game.
Mm-hmm.
And well, people are still debating on whether we should keep him or not, but that's another conversation for another day. Shady, and it hasn't been done since the Snow Bowl game. Shady had 217 rush yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. So
unbelievable.
That's since 2013. And, we've been talking about Miles and how he was not only drafted in the same round with the same pick, but, it's just absolutely crazy, man. I mean, Miles also already set a career high in rushing yards and touchdowns this season. He was fifth in the league with 908. That very well have changed a little bit after the Titans game. But just keep this in mind. The Eagles have not had a 1,000-yard rusher since Sean McCoy in 2014. Miles has 5 games left to complete that and eclipse it. So the next time you debate with yourself whether we should keep Miles Sanders or not, regardless of how the Eagles do,
regardless of how Miles Sanders is playing and he's having a career season, it's just not very smart to give a running back a high contract because running backs are very replaceable.
Right. I mean, you've seen what it's been like for the Dallas Cowboys with how up and down Zeke Elliott has been, and them giving him $90 million, and he's just now coming back into his own after whether it was battling a couple of injuries, and then years ago it was the suspension that he had on his head, but. Yeah, I get the premise of running backs being expendable and whatnot, but you think
you're having a good season. I mean, I agree that he's having a good season, but
yeah, career year,
which is not that's just not a position that you want to put a lot of money into.
Yeah, I don't know, because I mean, who are you if you do not retain Miles at that point? Who are you going to replace him with?
They'll figure it out. That's something they'll figure out when the time comes, but it's not. I don't think it's really something that they're really thinking about right now.
No, they're thinking about a Lombardi, right? They're thinking about a Lombardi, man. They want that first round bye. Yep. Yeah. So I mean I think that should do it for the Packers coverage. And like I said, we missed out on an episode last week, so we can segue into the next one. And boy, for the people that thought that this was going to be a close game, had another thing coming. The Eagles they ended up being Titans of the Tennessee Titans as they come to Lincoln Financial Field and get demolished 35 to 10. There's more records. Yes, there's more records to speak of when it comes to this performance. And again, Jalen Hurts is at the top of the list with what he was able to do. The Titans got dismantled so bad that Sirianni chose to sit his starters. I think
they got dismantled.
Into the fourth quarter.
They got dismantled by AJ Brown so bad that the Titans GM got fired today. So, just saying, bro.
The Titans still have a winning record. They're still, I believe, in a playoff hunt for a wild card, and yet they're
leading their division.
They fire their GM before they fire their offensive coordinator, which is probably the more popular complaint by the Titans fan base that I have seen on Twitter. A lot of Titans fans were calling for their OC to be fired. even as early as before that game. And to see the GM go before him, I don't know. That's not the here nor there. That's it is what it is. We handed them some termination papers, I guess, courtesy of AJ Brown, as he got his sweet revenge against Tennessee. And this was a AJ Brown type of game. Like, well, arguably a lot of people called for this to happen. 8
We knew it
receptions
was going to
for
happen.
8 catches, 119 yards, and 2 touchdowns for Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts' best friend, but he wasn't the only one that took advantage either. Devontae Smith, also another 100-yard receiver on just 5 catches. 5 for 102, touchdown early in the first quarter. Hurts was, I believe, a 6. What was he? 6 for 6, or at least 6 for 7 on that drive. Just destroying the Titans secondary. I don't know. Hurts was on another one that game. In terms of targets to catches for the Eagles receivers as a whole, they were pretty consistent. I think 8 total incomplete out of 38 targets. So they were 30 of 38. Tennessee's was 16 for 25. Tennessee was not able to move the ball at any consistent or considerable clip whatsoever with what the Eagles were able to do defensively. This was a game of sheer domination. There's really no other way of putting it. For Ryan Tannehill to be the game leader in rush yards when you have King Henry, or as well, Dunce Henry instead. There's a problem there for the Titans, but not for the Eagles defense. And this was, I believe, the return game for Jordan Davis. We seen Nakobe Dean in there get some very productive snaps. He looked fantastic. I think what was it? 2 Titans guys were trying to hold him back, and he still reached out his opposite arm and tripped up Derrick Henry for just a gain of 2 or 3 yards. I don't know why it took the Eagles
to get more playing time.
I don't know why it took them so long. I don't know if it's
very mysterious why they haven't let him play.
Maybe it's because of the quality of our linebackers as a whole. I mean, this is something we weren't used to having last year.
I mean, there's still ways they can get them on the field. I mean, not just stand on the bench. It's not something I think they should have been doing. So
no,
there's some kind of role for him.
But and I think it. We talked about to open the show here how the Eagles can beat you not just running the football, but also with Jalen Hurts' arm. In back-to-back weeks, the Eagles had 450 plus total yards as a team. This past game was passing, and against the Packers, it was rushing. Passing was 386 total, 386, and you had 363 rushing. Hurts amassed 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, 29 of 39.
Had the rushing touchdown too.
Do we really need to say more at this point other than looking for this?
Unbelievable.
Other than looking for this when it comes playoff time, I don't know if Hurts needs to prove anything else in terms
price of the brick going up.
It is, but do you think the Eagles are going to be afraid to pay that premium?
Hell no.
I personally do not think so. I don't care who the top quarterback.
In fact, the Eagles should be. The Eagles should actually be thrilled that Jalen Hurts is possibly better than what they thought he was going to be, because you have a guy that's possibly going to win the league MVP. Team is the number 1 seed. Your team is 11-1. the New Orleans Saints have the 5th overall pick, which is going to the Eagles. So whatever you do this year, hell, you could win the Super Bowl possibly and still have a top 5 pick. I don't even remember when's the last time that happened. So the Eagles are in a good spot, and Jalen Hurts is doing what he's doing. It makes it even better for the team because you don't have to worry about trying to find out who's going to be your quarterback. You have your quarterback, so it needs to be building more pieces around the team. So it's a very good situation to be in. It's a very good problem to have.
Especially when we talked about last year and watching him struggle in certain situations, but it was more so
because
that
of Rager. I kept saying it last year. I said Rager is the reason why he's struggling to this level, because you have a guy like Devontae Smith that's really good, but you have another guy like Rager that gets basically thrown on the ground every single snap. He can't even get off the line. So what are you going to do? Like, how do you expect a guy to go through progressions when there's a guy that he literally cannot trust to do anything? And you have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, which makes the dynamic a whole lot different. So it makes his job as a quarterback a lot easier than what it was. So I think that it was really just a matter of getting better weapons around Jalen Hurts. See what he's been able to do. So proves my point.
Not just the weapons to me, but I think it's also in pointing out the inconsistencies and knowing that this kid has not been in the same offensive structure ever since high school. And
he's definitely a lot more comfortable now.
he's
more comfortable in offense. He knows the plays. So.
That's where it all lies. I mean, there's
100%.
too many people. There's too many people that don't understand what that truly means for, a quarterback. That's like saying
you're learning a new offense every single year. It's very difficult.
Yeah. That's like I don't know if this analogy is going to make enough sense, but that's like you waking up in the morning every day to go to a different job and having to,
or it's like you work your job and you're working at like a different area. Like you get trained in one area and then they have you work this area and this one and this. It's very difficult to adjust to that because when you're trying to learn something and you start to feel like, okay, we're getting somewhere, and then they're like, nope, we're going to move you over here. We're going to move you over here. It's very difficult to adjust to that. So I think he's a lot more comfortable.
and nobody and little to nobody sensible in the fan base wanted to give Hurts that. Like you put him in there. No, you don't get your 2-week training period. You don't get any of that. Throw you into the fire. You figure it out for yourself. You go make us money, or you go win us some football games. That's not how it works. And all the sensible people just waiting in the weeds and thinking we got some good second round value here if he gets a chance. And well, what's happening this year?
Not really second round value. It's more of a steal because I bet there's a lot of teams that would love to have Jalen Hurts. That didn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
there's people that would say if you redid the draft, you're taking this guy in the first round. He's just up there with, everyone's talking about Herbert, everyone's talking about Joe Burrow, and the quarterbacks of that class, Tua. He's right there with all of them. So, yeah.
And if we didn't,
2020 was a pretty good quarterback class.
Yeah. 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 And everyone thought that Hurts was going to be in the bottom of the barrel of that. And well, joke's on you.
Damn sure isn't.
And if we didn't talk enough about records, Hurts and the Eagles, I think, broke more of those against the Titans. But in all of the positivity, you could always bring up some negatives. One that stuck out to me, especially in the Titans game, Eagles,
All the damn
especially
penalties.
the offensive line. What are we doing with 12 penalties? 12?
There's a penalty
I
like
mean,
every single play, bro. Like it was. I've never seen anything like it.
Take one of those though off the board because of that egregious
The
holding
Kelsey one.
call on Jason Kelsey. What?
Yeah, I don't even know what that was. But it is what it is, man. Like I don't think it's gonna be. I don't think it's going to be a recurring thing. I think that if you look at this team has not really had that many issues getting penalties this year. Been one of the least penalized teams, and I don't even know what was going on in that game, but I don't think it's going to repeat itself.
Yeah, I think the Eagles this year have been consistent with that. I think anywhere from say maybe 4 to 6 or 7 a game, maybe not that much. I would probably take the average and being around there on a game to game basis. I think is fair enough, which is typical at this point. But I think so long as those penalties aren't personal fouls or DPIs, pass interference calls, anything that's going to penalize you 15 or more yards, even some 10-yarders, then yeah, you can afford a couple of ticky-tack fives here and there. But some of those are drive killers. And well, thankfully the Titans weren't a little bit better that game to make us pay for that, but we'll take it for what it is. Again, the Eagles over 450 yards that game. Third down, they weren't very good. Do you want to count like the fourth quarter that was involved in that? You can, but as a whole, they were.
I don't think it's that big of a deal.
They were 3 for 11 on third down. But if you look at it across the whole scope, if you're not in many third down situations and you're scoring instead, then at that point, what does it matter? The Eagles were perfect on fourth down. They had 3 attempts, made all 3. Like I said, 386 passing yards by the quarterback, not the running back. He's a dual threat. Like, just take it for what it is, haters. That's the way it goes. Yards per play at almost seven a clip between rushing and throwing the football.
Yeah.
Eagles didn't run the ball very well, 2.8 a carry. Didn't matter because, well, Titans didn't adjust. Titans did not adjust to the pass. They got burnt in the air by Hurts. So, but yeah, man. We'll go into the next one here. Like I said, we talked about the Packers game and what the Eagles were able to do, not just from an individual standpoint, but a team standpoint. And the Eagles set more records back-to-back weeks, against the Packers and now against the Titans. So for Jalen Hurts, he became the first Eagles player with at least 350 pass yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown in the same game. He has more games. He has 2 games with that stat line than any other Eagles player in the Super Bowl era combined. The last one to do that was, again, Michael Vick, which I do believe was the Monday Night Massacre back in 2010 against Washington.
59 points.
Hurts hit on 3 touchdowns on deep passes. It was his second game with at least 3 of those this year. He is only the second player in the next gen era, next gen stats, that is, which is since 2016, to have 2 games with as many deep passing touchdowns after Ben Roethlisberger. Hurts also broke the Eagles' team record for offensive yards in the team's first 12 games of a season with 3,549. And the previous record holder, Donovan McNabb, with 3,539, which is the same year that the Eagles went to the Super Bowl. Now let's hope we can put 2 and 2 together there this year. And well, I mean, this Eagles team is well on track to do that. I mean, I don't truly know if a lot of us seen this coming with the way that they're playing, how they're able to really come back in situations that, we thought all was lost. The amount of game-winning drives Hurts has this year, I don't know. The deeper we're getting into this season, it's, dare I say, it's feeling like 2017 again. It's right. I don't know. I'm just saying it's right. It's right there. I know a lot of the skepticism.
There's similarity. I mean, I think there's some similarities, but I don't think it's two different teams. It's two different teams.
It's two different teams, but I don't know, man. It's really close. The way they're able to win games.
I think Jalen this year is better than Carson was in 2017. I do.
Yeah. I mean, isn't he? I think isn't he still completing more than 65% of his passes?
I don't even think Carson, even that season, was completing 60%. It was like 60.
Yeah, he was barely over. Yeah, he was barely over 60. That's insane.
He's got definitely less turnovers. I don't know. We'll have to see what their stats are at the end of the season, but
Hurts is also the first quarterback to throw for 300-plus yards in a game after rushing for 150 or more.
That's some crazy records, man.
But he wasn't the only one. AJ Brown was also in there, coincidentally or rightfully so enough.
2 touchdowns.
AJ became the 4th Pro Bowler who began their career in 1960 or later to record at least 100 yards and 2 scores receiving in his first game against the team who drafted him. Jarvis Landry, Steve Smith Sr., and Terrell Owens were the only other 3 to accomplish that.
I remember the Steve Smith game that was against the Panthers. He absolutely went off against them.
A.J. Brown also became the first player in at least the last 30 seasons to score a 40-plus yard touchdown on the play immediately after scoring a 40-plus yard touchdown that was overturned by instant replay.
Yeah, that was funny. Like, the guy ran into him. He was trying to draw like offensive pass interference, and it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Like, AJ just trucked him, and there was no one near him. And the second one, he just mossed the guy. So that was just good stuff for AJ against his former team. Very happy for him.
I just now realized in all that my camera messed up on me. I'm too darn blurry. Look at that. Yeah, well, I'm not going to worry about it. I don't know what it's doing. It's kind of like the focus is off. The only way I can fix it is turning my camera off and turning it back on, but we'll see if it does anything. No, it didn't do anything. Oh, well. Well, I think we also got on. I think we also gone over the Eagles' dominance by the numbers, which was included in some of the record breaking. So, yeah, I think we can. I think we can put that to bed with AJ Brown, with the way that he dominated the Titans secondary and hurt them so bad. Talked about their GM getting fired. You could say it was because of it, but yeah,
I would never laugh at someone losing their job, but that is pretty funny.
Titans are a mess, man.
It's just the timing of it. If he got fired before, probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. But
Yeah,
it's like AJ Brown went off, and then a couple of days later, by the way, you're fired. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like that's just the irony is just kind of funny to me.
Well, with all of that said, and I thought that wow, we already covered 6 topics already, which is kind of wild because we're only 41 minutes into the show. I thought it would have taken us a lot longer, but nonetheless, getting into our final 2, we start with number 7, and the Birds can clinch a playoff berth with a win in their next matchup, 1 o'clock on Fox against the New York Football Giants. And I don't know how most of you take the Giants to this point right now, but after seeing them tie against the Washington Commanders, of all teams, 2 NFC East teams trying to battle it out, and then they end up finishing with a tie, it's like one of those things where you say only the NFC East. But well, our division, I think, is probably the most winningest division right now, as far as I'm concerned, with every team having a winning record.
If
What
the
other
season ended
division in
today,
the
all
NFL?
4 teams would be in.
Yeah, I mean, what other team in the NFL? What other division in the NFL right now has all 4 teams with a winning record? I mean, you can't say this year that we're the NFC least, as stereotypically said for how many years now.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Eagles can clinch this week.
Clinch a playoff spot.
And I'm trying to remember what year it was where we went in saying that, all right, this is the game. Let's put it to bed here. And we ended up losing that game. I don't remember what year it was. And that's going to bother me now, but I don't think it's going to happen this time.
2017, they actually clinched the number 1 seed against the Giants.
Right.
So that was the first game that Foles started after Carson Wentz got hurt.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as this game goes, you have Saquon Barkley, who's a phenomenal player. Talked about Miles Sanders having a great season. Saquon is having a great season. He catches the ball out of the backfield. He can run the ball. He's their biggest weapon. He's the main guy that you got to focus on. Their other guys, their other receivers and tight ends don't really move me too much. Daniel Jones doesn't move me too much. You just got to get pressure on him. If you get the right pressure on him, then he's going to be reckless with the ball. He's going to turn it over. So I think that the defense just needs to be dialed in. Jalen Hurts just play the way he's been playing, take care of the ball, be efficient, and take what the defense gives to him, which he's been doing all season. The Eagles will win this game. That's pretty much my thoughts and my keys to the game and stuff. So that's what I'm expecting to see on Sunday.
Yeah, so I mean, we talk about Daniel Jones, and in 12 games, he's not lighting the world on fire. To this point, he's been sacked 37 times, which is pretty high. So, that this is most likely an offensive line that the Eagles defense can take advantage of. QBR, he's just above average at a 55. Passer rating it's okay at a 91.2. That's about the going rate for, I think, most good quarterbacks in the NFL. Yards per attempt sits at 6.8. This is not a quarterback that's not going to push the ball He's not going to push the ball down the field. I think he gets a little happy-footed too much in the pocket where he tries to use a little bit of his kind of awkward speed to his advantage, kind of like the good old the good old trip game.
Terrible.
Oh my! That was probably
That has to be one of the most embarrassing things.
One of the funniest and most embarrassing moments.
That game was just a complete disaster with the Giants because you had Daniel. Not only did Daniel Jones do that in the first half, in the second half, I think it was like in the fourth quarter, the Evan Ingram was wide open and he dropped a pass, and then the Eagles ended up coming back. So, yikes! Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah,
that was one of the only good games the Eagles had in that 2020 season. But whatever, I ain't gonna go into all that.
And it just gave me a bad Nickel Roby Coleman memory too. Oh no, stay away. We don't want us to be reminded of those.
Crazy, bro. Like, it's crazy to see. It's crazy to see. It's just crazy to see where this team was 2 years ago and where they are now. Like,
man, the
2 years ago, did you think we would be saying that we're going to have a team that's 11-1, Jalen Hurts is going to be MVP, and could possibly win another Super Bowl? I don't know if anyone would say that. I think most people thought after a 2020 season it was going to take us, a good 4 or 5 years to get to this point. So it's outstanding.
To have a duo of shutdown corners between Bradbury and Slay, an actual good linebacking core. Nakobe Dean is starting to get his feet wet with more snaps. I gotta give TJ Edwards his flowers too. I mean, he's playing out of his absolute mind this year. The amount of tackles that he's accumulating, positive tackles, dare we say, where he is at the forefront of that run defense behind the D line. How he not wasting any time and bringing in Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh. Crazy.
He's all in.
It's really unbelievable.
The most important thing for a good organization in any sport, not even just the NFL, you gotta have really good continuity from the top, and then it goes down to the coach, and in this case, the quarterback. So you have all three of those boxes checked, and that is why the Eagles are where they are.
Absolutely, but yeah, not to get too far off, of course, here. But bottom line, I don't think any of us right now are afraid of Daniel Jones, especially for a quarterback that's not even averaging 200 yards a game. I mean, come on. Dink and dunk.
They use the same game plan that they use against Ryan Tannehill. I think it'll work against Daniel Jones. I mean, they're similar to Ryan.
Yeah.
He's mobile. You saw him, he ran on the fourth down play, kind of got us. But they were pretty much all over him. I think that if they use the same game plan, they should be okay.
Yeah, I mean, to an extent, the Giants do have better weaponry.
Ish.
I think in terms of receivers, I do believe they have better receivers. When you talk about Darius Slayton, they haven't had Sterling Shepard for the longest. Unfortunately, Wan'Dale Robinson has been okay for them. Richie James is getting some catches in there.
I mean, nobody's scared. Like, none of the names that you're saying is like, oh man, we gotta watch out for this guy.
No, of course.
Other than Saquon, nothing really improved me too much.
Yeah. So I mean, Saquon right now is averaging about 88 yards a game. He's getting 20 rush attempts a game as well. This is a team that doesn't have a 1-2 punch at running back. It's all about Saquon Barkley, Matt Breida, Gary Brightwell. They haven't been getting it very much, so I'm not afraid of either one of those two. So I think we can narrow it down and say if the Eagles defense can shut down Saquon the same way they were able to shut down Derrick Henry
And Jonathan Taylor.
and Jonathan Taylor, then
It's
this
pretty
should
crazy
be
what we were saying a couple weeks ago, but these last couple
yeah.
weeks, Jonathan Taylor, Derrick Henry, pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Pretty damn good players, but not doing too much against the Eagles defense. So
Right.
good stuff. Since the Commanders game, they've really adjusted to it.
So I think if you look at it so we talked about it from a defensive standpoint. We're not necessarily afraid of anybody on the Giants whatsoever. We did watch in the offseason and how they were able to add Wink Martindale as their defensive coordinator. Is he all that much of a creative mind when it comes to scheming against quarterbacks?
Well, I mean,
Yes,
if you look
yes
at
and no.
what he did, if you look at what he did against the Ravens, and I know he came from Baltimore, so he knew certain things about Lamar that he probably doesn't know about Jalen, but I would venture to say that he's going to try to throw some of the same stuff that he did throw at Lamar, just because Lamar being a great athlete, a mobile quarterback. So I would expect him to throw some of the same stuff at Jalen.
Yeah. Hi, Angel 3. Yes.
Guy.
Yes, I actually was blurry at one point, and to some unknown reason, not me doing anything to my camera, but my camera went blurry at one point. It's unexplainable by me, and yeah, that's that's where that came from. And Anton was just pointing out the obvious. But yeah, nonetheless, with this defensively, you look at the Giants in terms of their secondary. They don't give up very many touchdowns. They're sixth in the league with 14 in terms of a secondary unit. They're kind of average on that front. They don't force turnovers. They're
pretty good. Not bad.
I think they're third worst. They're third worst in forcing interceptions at only 5. The Eagles, we can say completely different on that front. But what really hurts this Martindale defense is they have a really hard time stopping the run, which has been the Eagles' Achilles heel in quite a few different games, but as of late, can't say that really. We're really tightening it up on that front, and for most of the year, the Giants haven't been able to do that. They are third worst in yards per carry allowed at 5.1.
Yep.
They are average in touchdowns. They're 26th in yards given up rushing, and they're 21st in rushing yards attempted by the opposing team. So this is a Martindale defense that a lot of the league knows that they can run on, and the Giants really don't have the personnel to stop it, or you can take of it what you want at that point. But for the way that the Eagles, in particular, Jalen Hurts and Miles Sanders, the way they were able to destroy the Green Bay Packers with their legs between Hurts and Miles, this could very well be not to the extent of the Packers game, I don't think, but the Eagles do have a good chance of probably surpassing 200 plus rushing yards this game. I would dare to say maybe 225 to 250 if they really hone in. You know what I mean? So, can I put that in as a prediction? Probably. That makes the most sense, being from a statistical standpoint against the Giants. But yeah, I don't think either one of us are afraid of the New York Giants at all with the way the Eagles have been playing. Yeah. No, not at all. Not after watching them and the Commanders tie at what, 20 points apiece. Did they not tie at 20?
Yep.
So, I mean, yeah, man. But I think that went pretty. I think that went pretty well. I'm not necessarily a savant when it comes to hosting things. I don't think, at
Pretty
least,
good
because
show.
the last time I hosted a LinkedIn podcast didn't go very well to my standards, at least. But the two of us, I think the two of us kicked some new what tonight, and we want to thank everybody for coming out and watching episode 22 of the LinkedIn podcast, which kind of had a new home, if you will, over on my channel. I've been absent for quite a while, but it was good to bring it back for a little bit. Any other closing thoughts that you have, partner in crime?
Always brush your teeth. And LinkedIn country, let's ride. That's all I got to say.
That's not going to go away ever, is it?
No, not until Russell Wilson stops getting roasted. Until someone else does it. Then I'll have to make fun of something else. But I'm really glad the Eagles didn't trade for Russell Wilson, because if he was saying Eagles country, let's fly, or some crap like that, like people would want to kill him. Like I'm just saying, for his safety, I'm glad that he didn't get traded. Not even like from a football standpoint. Just saying.
It was him, Deshaun Watson, people talking about Aaron Rodgers.
Aaron Rodgers.
That went well, didn't it? That went well. That definitely went well. But yeah, I think we could end it on a humorous note there. The LinkedIn podcast brought to you by yours truly, between Lindy Endzone and Philly Jim. One podcast, one stream, or episode of taking the lead for the Eagles at a time. Big thanks also to Sideline Sports Network and your sponsors as well, Philly Jim, which is between Fanatics and Yeti. Yeah, that's right. I was trying to remember it off the top of my head, but yeah. So that'll conclude episode 22. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we will catch y'all for the GOAT episode 23, next week for LinkedIn Country. Let's ride. And why did I even say that?
You gotta keep saying it, bro. You gotta keep saying it.
No. Oh my god.
You have to get a shirt that says LinkedIn Let's Ride.
No.
Or Let's Fly or something.
I just did it for the humor. Good night, everybody. Take care.